Sean "Diddy" Combs, the once untouchable hip-hop mogul whose empire spanned music, fashion and nightlife, is staring down a potentially brighter horizon from behind bars. Fresh off a transfer to a notably more lenient federal facility, Combs and his high-powered legal team have notched a significant victory in the appeals process that could shave months, or even years, off his incarceration. This development comes amid a saga that has captivated the public, blending tales of excess, allegations of misconduct, and the relentless machinery of the justice system. The win in question revolves around an expedited timeline for Combs' appeal, a procedural boon that injects urgency and hope into what had seemed like a drawn-out legal limbo. Just days prior to this ruling, Combs was relocated from a more restrictive detention center to the Federal Correctional Institution in Fort Dix, New Jersey, a low-security prison often described in legal circles as Cushier, due to its campus-like setting, vocational programs, and relative freedom of movement compared to maximum security lockups. This move alone marked a tangible improvement in his daily existence, allowing for more personal space and interactions that feel less like punishment and more like structured rehabilitation. But the real game-changer arrived from the courtroom, a federal appeals judge's decision to fast-track the proceedings, setting the stage for arguments that could upend his conviction entirely. U.S. Circuit Court Judge Beth Robinson delivered the order with concise authority, her brief but impactful ruling stating unequivocally, "It is hereby ordered that the motion is granted." This greenlit every element of the request put forth by Combs' defense, including deadlines for initial filings as early as December 23, 2025, and oral arguments potentially kicking off by April 2026. For a man whose current release date looms as far off as May 8, 2028, this acceleration is nothing short of a lifeline. It compresses what could have been a multi-year slog into a matter of months, giving Combs' attorneys the momentum needed to challenge the underpinnings of his sentence head-on. At the helm of this legal offensive is Alexandra Shapiro, Combs' seasoned lawyer whose filing last week sailed through without a whisper of opposition from prosecutors. Shapiro's strategy has been praised by observers for its precision, leveraging procedural rules to exploit any delay in the government's response, thereby buying her client precious time and leverage. The appeal targets the core of Combs' conviction, a 4-year term handed down for transportation to engage in prostitution, coupled with a hefty $500,000 fine and 5 years of supervised release post-incarceration. While this sentence pales in comparison to the life imprisonment he might have faced had prosecutors secured convictions on the graver racketeering, RICO, and sex trafficking charges, it still represents a seismic fall from grace for a figure synonymous with opulence and influence. To contextualize Combs' journey to this point, one must rewind to the chaotic unraveling of his public image. Once the architect of Bad Boy Records, which launched icons like the Notorious B.I.G. and Mary J. Blige, Combs built a brand around lavish parties, entrepreneurial ventures like Sean John Clothing, and a charisma that bridged street culture with high society. But cracks began to show in recent years, amplified by civil lawsuits alleging abuse, coercion and exploitative freak-off parties that devolved into criminal enterprises. The federal case, which culminated in his October 3 sentencing, painted a damning portrait. Prosecutors alleged a pattern of using his power to orchestrate interstate transport for illicit activities, ensnaring vulnerable individuals in a web of manipulation. Combs, ever the showman, maintained his innocence throughout, framing the ordeal as a witch hunt fueled by opportunists and media frenzy. The transfer to Fort Dix FCI has already softened some edges of this harsh reality. Nestled in a rural expanse of New Jersey Pine Barrens, the facility contrasts sharply with urban jails, offering inmates access to educational courses, recreational sports, and even part-time jobs that mimic civilian life. Reports indicate Combs has taken to it with surprising gusto, forging unexpected camaraderie with fellow inmate Sebastian Telfair, the former NBA player whose own brushes with the law led him there. Over the weekend, paparazzi-style photos smuggled out via TMZ captured Combs in rare unguarded moments, flashing a broad ear-to-ear grin as he bantered with peers during yard time. These images, grainy yet telling, humanize a man often caricatured as a villain, showing flashes of the charisma that once packed clubs and boardrooms alike. Legal experts are buzzing about the implications of this expedited appeal. In a system where backlogs can stretch indefinitely, such rulings are rare and often signal judicial sympathy or procedural flaws in the original trial. For Combs, it opens doors to arguments about evidentiary overreach, witness credibility, and whether the prostitution charge truly warranted the full sentence weight. If successful, it could result in a reduced term, house arrest, or outright reversal, scenarios that would allow him to pivot back toward reclaiming his narrative. Already, whispers in entertainment circles suggest contingency plans. Music comebacks, tell-all memoirs, and philanthropy pushes to recast him as a reformed elder statesman of hip-hop. Yet, this optimism is tempered by the shadow of unresolved civil suits and the cultural reckoning still unfolding. Survivors and advocates continue to share stories, fueling documentaries and podcasts that dissect Combs' legacy with unflinching detail. His time at Fort Dix, while more comfortable, isn't without its own dramas. Rumors of internal power plays and the psychological toll of confinement persist. Combs has reportedly leaned on spiritual advisors and journaling to cope, channeling the isolation into creative outlets like songwriting scraps passed to collaborators outside. As the appeal date nears, the hip-hop community watches with bated breath. Rappers like Jay-Z and 50 Cent, who once collaborated or clashed with Diddy, have stayed mum, but industry insiders speculate on ripple effects. Could a win embolden other high-profile defendants? Or does it underscore systemic biases favoring the wealthy? For now, Combs settles into his new chapter, a blend of strategic patience and defiant spirit, proving that even in lockdown the art of the deal endures.